A poor single father opened his door to a lost girl for just one night, never realizing she was the daughter of a powerful millionaire and that her presence would change his life forever. People don't stand in the cold this long unless they're waiting for something, David said gently, his coat still dripping from the storm. The girl flinched, her hands wrapped around her elbows, shoulders rigid. "I'm not waiting," she muttered. "I'm hiding." David didn't move closer, just stood a few feet away under the flickering glow of the old street lamp, his janitor uniform damp, his face lined with quiet concern. "Okay," he said softly. "Then you probably shouldn't hide here. This corner gets rough after midnight." The girl didn't answer, her eyes scanning the shadows like something might crawl out of them. He waited. She didn't run, but she didn't relax either. "You hungry?" he asked. "I have leftover soup. It's not much, but it's hot." She finally looked at him, her lips cracked, hoodie soaked. "You live around here? 2 blocks, upstairs apartment. You can crash on the couch. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer." She swallowed, still trembling. "I don't even know your name. You don't need to," he said firmly. "You just need to be warm." For a moment she didn't breathe, then nodded once. As they walked into the rainy night, David kept a few steps ahead, not leading, not chasing, just giving her space. He had no idea who she was, and she had no idea that inside his tiny home was something she'd been missing for years. Safety. "All right," David said, adjusting the strap on his bag. "I live a few blocks from here. It's not much, but it's warm. You can stay on the couch." The girl blinked slowly, as if his words needed time to sink in. Her arms stayed wrapped around her damp hoodie, her fingers trembling even though the rain had started to ease. Her eyes flicked to the shadows, then back to his face before falling to her feet. He thought she might refuse again, but her shoulders sagged, and with the smallest nod she whispered, "Okay." They walked in silence, streetlights casting watery reflections across the puddles. David didn't rush. He stayed a step ahead, glancing back every so often to be sure she was still there. She moved like someone used to disappearing, head low, steps light, as if afraid to be noticed. By the time they reached the weathered brick apartment complex, her lips were blue. David unlocked the door and motioned her inside. The hallway smelled faintly of old paint and pine cleaner. It wasn't much, but it was his. More importantly, it was safe. Warmth greeted them like a quiet hug. The unit was small, 2 bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, a cozy living room but clean. Books lined a short shelf. A pink unicorn backpack sat by the door. A child's drawing of a rainbow was taped to the fridge. "You can leave your shoes here," David said, pointing to the mat. "The couch is yours. Blankets in the hall closet. Bathrooms on the right." She nodded, still silent, like she didn't trust the moment enough to breathe. David disappeared briefly, returning with a folded blanket, a clean towel, and an oversized hoodie with a faded college logo. "The water takes a minute to heat, but the pressure's good," he said, handing her the bundle. She stared at it. "Why are you doing this?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Because you looked like you needed someone not to ask questions." She said nothing, but her wary eyes searched his face like she didn't quite believe him. David didn't press. He pointed toward the bathroom and slipped into the bedroom where his 6-year-old daughter slept, curls spread across her pillow, stuffed bunny clutched in one arm. He kissed her forehead gently. "It's okay," he whispered. When the girl emerged 20 minutes later, her hair was damp but combed. She wore the hoodie sleeves too long, hemmed nearly to her thighs. She looked softer somehow, less like a shadow and more like someone beginning to exist again. On the coffee table sat a mug of warm water and a note in looping handwriting. "If you need to call someone, the house phone is on the wall. There are more blankets in the hall. Please keep the bedroom door closed. My daughter's a light sleeper." She stood for a long time staring at the note, her fingers hovering above the mug as if kindness had weight. Finally, she wrapped her hands around it and drank. Warmth. It felt foreign. She curled on the couch without a word. The blanket was heavier than she expected, like something designed to hold her in place. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, she didn't feel like she had to keep one eye open. David didn't know her name. She didn't know his. Yet the silence between them was better than the noise she had come from. As the rain faded into a hush, she listened to the heater's quiet hum, the occasional creak of the floorboards, the soft breathing from behind the bedroom door. No demands, no expectations, no judgment. And somehow, in this man's home, with his silent kindness and awkward hoodie, she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Safe. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know if she'd stay. But tonight, she wouldn't sleep on concrete or under flickering street lamps. Tonight, she wouldn't sleep alone. The scent of something buttery and slightly burnt pulled her from sleep. Emma blinked against the soft light filtering through the blinds. For a moment she forgot where she was, until the blanket slid off her shoulder and she noticed the warm mug on the coffee table empty, now but clean, the folded note still beneath it. The floor felt cool under her bare feet as she sat up, adjusting the oversized hoodie and tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Then she heard it, laughter, high-pitched and contagious, drifting from the other room. She peeked around the corner. A little girl, maybe 6, sat cross-legged on the rug, building a lopsided tower of colorful blocks. Her curls bounced with every giggle, tiny fingers working with determination. The girl looked up, eyes wide and curious. "Hi, are you the princess?" Emma blinked. "The what?" "The princess that slept on our couch," the child said with a grin. Emma chuckled, surprised by her own laughter. It had been days since she'd truly laughed. "I don't know about a princess," she said. "But yes, I slept here." "I'm Mia," the girl announced proudly. Emma smiled. "Nice to meet you, Mia." From the kitchen, a voice called, "Mia, I need your expert help with this toast. It's threatening to burn itself again." Mia jumped up with a giggle and ran off. Emma hesitated. The door wasn't locked. Her shoes were still by the couch. She could leave. But something pulled her forward. In the small kitchen, David stood at the stove, juggling scrambled eggs with one hand and flipping toast with the other. His hair was messy, and he wore a faded band t-shirt. There was something easy about him here, something almost ordinary. "You cook?" she asked. He glanced over his shoulder. "Only when I'm feeling brave." Is this bravery or foolishness? "A little of both. Want to help?" Emma bit her lip. "I should warn you, I'm a danger to eggs everywhere." He handed her a whisk. "Perfect. Then we'll match." As they moved around the cramped kitchen, something unexpected happened. She laughed again. Mia stood on a stool, buttering toast and humming. David cracked jokes about kitchen disasters. And Emma, despite herself, tried flipping eggs. It didn't go well. The spatula slipped, eggs sliding across the counter before flopping back into the pan with a splatter. Emma froze. "Oh no." Before she could react, Mia handed her a paper towel like it was a prize. "It's okay. Daddy spills stuff all the time." Emma looked at the child, then at David and burst into full laughter. David didn't scold, didn't tease. He just smiled, cleaned up, and guided her to the table where plates were waiting. The toast was burnt, the eggs patchy, the bacon chewy. But it was perfect. Emma glanced at David. "You don't have to lie." "I'm not," he said, chewing with exaggerated approval. "This is gourmet. 5-star. She raised an eyebrow. 4-star? He grinned. Mia poked her eggs, suspicious, then looked at Emma. "I like your hoodie. It's Daddy's, right?" Emma nodded. "He loaned it to me. It's huge." Emma smiled. "I like huge. It hides everything." After breakfast, David cleaned up while Emma helped Mia build another block tower. The silence between them was no longer awkward. It was comfortable, like a worn-in sweater. Later, while stacking bricks, Mia leaned close. The eggs Daddy made after were better. But it's okay, he still ate yours. Emma tilted her head. He made more? Mia nodded seriously. Don't tell. He said it was a secret. Emma stood and walked to the kitchen doorway. David was mid-bite with a fresh plate of eggs. She crossed her arms. Really? He swallowed. In my defense, they're not burnt. You cooked a second breakfast and let me think you ate. Mine? You cooked. That's what matters. She studied him. Why didn't you just tell me? He shrugged. Because the first time doing something is messy. But it still deserves someone who appreciates it. Her breath caught. One had ever said that to her. She couldn't tell if the warmth blooming in her chest came from the kitchen heat. Or from him. The knock came as the kettle whistled. David wiped his hands on a dish towel, assuming it was a package drop or a neighbor with a question about parking. He swung the door open mid-yawn then froze. Emma stood on the porch. Her hoodie was damp at the sleeves and her hair was tucked into a messy braid. In one hand, she held a paper cup tray. In the other, a bag that smelled faintly of cinnamon. Cinnamon rolls, she said quietly, holding out the bag. Mia said they're her favorite. David took them without speaking. She looked down, then up, her eyes steady. I'm not here to crash on your couch, she said. I'm here to build something. If you'll still let me. He stared at her for a long moment, his hand still holding the warm bag. This place isn't much, he said. She stepped closer, her voice firm. I've seen everything money can buy, David. Chandeliers, silk sheets, even private islands. But I never had someone who brewed me coffee just because. I never had a space that didn't expect something in return. This house is small. Emma smiled. And it's the only place that's ever felt like I could breathe. A tiny yawn interrupted them. Mia stood in the doorway, blanket in one hand, one sock missing, her hair in a wild cloud. Emma crouched. Hi, sweet pea. I brought breakfast. Mia's face lit up. She ran into Emma's arms like a magnet snapping into place. Are you staying? Emma looked up at David, his lips pressed together. He gave the smallest nod. Emma's eyes welled, but her smile didn't waver. Yeah, honey, I'm staying. 2 months later, the old pickup truck wasn't hauling laundry. It was parked at the city market under a striped umbrella. A handwritten chalkboard read, David and Emmy's mornings, coffee, toasties, kindness served warm. Emma handled the espresso machine while David grilled sandwiches. Mia passed out menus shaped like stars. They didn't make millions, but they made mornings brighter for themselves and for strangers. One customer looked at the board and asked, Are you guys a couple? Emma glanced at David. We're a family, she said. David smiled, brushing powdered sugar off her cheek. And it started with a couch and a cup of warm water. Sometimes love doesn't come dressed in diamonds. Sometimes it shows up at 2 a.m. in a uniform, with gentle eyes and a quiet offer of safety. David didn't have riches. He had decency, empathy, and the bravery to offer warmth without expectation. And that was enough. It was more than enough. It was home. Hi there. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. We share stories about hope, healing, and the unexpected ways love finds us. Tap the bell so you never miss one. Thank you for listening and being a part of this journey. On the 4th day, she started coughing. At first, David didn't panic. Mia always caught something when the seasons changed. But that night, her temperature rose, and the next morning she could barely keep her eyes open. Her forehead was burning. Her tiny frame shivered under the blankets. David placed a hand on her back and felt the tremble run through her like a warning bell. By midnight, he was speeding through quiet streets. Mia bundled in his arms, the truck's engine growling like a frightened animal. His hands shook on the steering wheel. At the hospital, the bright lights made everything feel sharper too. White, too clean, too much. A nurse took Mia from his arms, wheeling her into an exam room. He stood there helpless, fingers curled into fists, pacing the floor like a man on trial. A woman at the desk finally looked up. "We need a $6,000 payment to admit her," David blinked. What? No, you don't understand. She's 6. She needs help. "I don't have that kind of money right now, but I'll pay. Just give me time." The nurse's face softened, but she shook her head. "I'm sorry, sir. Hospital policy." His voice cracked. "Please, she's all I have." And then behind him, a voice cut through the panic. "I've got it." He turned. Emma stood just inside the entrance, her coat over her arm, hair damp from the rain. She didn't say another word. She just walked to the receptionist, pulled a black card from her wallet, and handed it over. "Put everything under my name," she said firmly. "Room fees, meds, all of it." The receptionist hesitated. "Do you have a connection to the patient?" Emma's eyes softened as she looked at David. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I do." They wheeled Mia into a room. David followed, his legs heavy, and sat beside her hospital bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. An hour passed before the doctor came in. "It's a virus, nasty one. We'll monitor her for a few days, but she's going to be okay." Relief hit David so fast it made him dizzy. Emma slipped into the chair beside him. He didn't look at her right away, but when he did, his voice was low. "You didn't have to come back." "I know, but you did." "I couldn't." "Stay away," he exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have been pulled into this." "You didn't pull me in. I came back on my own." He nodded, then met her eyes. "I know you don't owe me anything. But thank you, for this, for her." She smiled faintly. "You told me once everyone deserves to walk without pain. That goes for hearts too." They sat in silence, the soft beeping of the heart monitor between them. For the first time since she left, David allowed himself to breathe. Not just because Mia was safe, but because Emma had come back, later in the city's tallest high-rise. Emma stood in the marble hallway of her father's penthouse. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline glittering in the distance. Winston sat at a glass table, reading the financial pages. "You came back," he said coolly. "I didn't come back," she replied. "I came to talk." He folded the paper with deliberate calm. "You're denying reality. You left your life to shack up with a man who irons sheets for a living." Emma's eyes didn't waver. "That man saved me." "From what? A little discomfort?" "From being someone I didn't recognize. From a world where I couldn't breathe. You had everything. A future, a family name. And you threw it away. I walked away. There's a difference." His eyes darkened. "You're going to choose him over this?" "Over me?" She met his gaze. "I'm choosing my life. My voice. And yes, the man who lives by his hands and his heart." "You love him?" "I do." His jaw tightened. "He can't give you anything. He already has, more than you ever did." Silence hung heavy. Winston turned to the window. "Real life isn't a fairy tale. Love doesn't keep the heat on." "No," Emma said, "but it keeps people warm." His shoulders sank slightly. "I never meant to be the bad guy. You just forgot how to be a person." As she reached the door, he spoke again. Tell him he's lucky." She turned with a soft smile. "No, I'm the lucky one." And then she walked away from glass walls, marble floors, and the quiet lie of luxury, toward a life that was messy, but real. The rain had stopped, but the streets still shimmered like glass as Emma stepped off the city bus. No suitcase. No driver behind her. Just her coat, a messenger bag, and sneakers that had once been white. The sky was still dark, early. Morning clinging to the horizon like a stubborn dream. She walked the last block on foot, each step slower than the one before it, not from doubt, but from something closer to reverence. It had been a week. 7 days since she'd sat in the back seat of a sleek black car, her father's eyes boring into the rearview mirror like a warning. 7 days since she'd left behind something that looked like safety. She reached the porch of the small duplex house. The same pink backpack sat by the door. A child's drawing was taped to the window stick figures and a giant smiling sun. Emma raised her hand to knock, then stopped. Instead, she stepped back, unsure. But the door opened before she could change her mind. David stood there. His expression didn't change. He didn't smile, didn't scowl, didn't flinch. Just looked at her like someone reading a page they'd memorized but hadn't dared to hope they'd see again. Emma's throat tightened. "Hi." David leaned against the doorframe. "You okay?" She nodded. "Yeah, I am now." A small voice echoed from inside the house. "Daddy, is the couch princess back?" Emma laughed, the sound cracking in the middle. David opened the door fully and stepped aside. "Come in." She entered slowly, like the floor might vanish beneath her feet. The living room was exactly as she remembered. Cozy, cluttered, warm. A folded blanket on the couch. A drawing of a rainbow thumbtacked above the shelf. Mia peeked around the corner, grinning. "I knew you'd come back." "I missed you too," Emma whispered. Later, as Mia napped with her head in Emma's lap, David sat across from them, sipping from a chipped coffee mug. "So," he said, "you walked away from it all?" She nodded. "And this time I didn't run. I walked." David leaned back. "Your father let you go?" "He didn't try to stop me, I think." In his own way, he finally understood. David looked down at the mug. "That's big." Emma traced her finger along Mia's curls. "He told me to tell you you're lucky," David smirked. "Did you?" I said no. He raised an eyebrow. "I said I'm the lucky one." There was a long pause between them, but it wasn't heavy. It was full. Full of things they didn't need to say out loud anymore. That night, David cooked dinner while Emma cut vegetables. The kitchen was still tiny. The toast still burned. Mia spilled water, and Emma stepped in it with her socked foot and yelped. They all laughed. Afterward, Emma folded laundry in the corner while David dried dishes. She held up one of his shirts and smiled. "I've gotten better at this." "I noticed," he said. She watched him for a long moment. "I don't want to be a guest here anymore." He dried his hands slowly. "You're not." "I mean it," she said. "I want to build something real, with you. With her, if you'll let me." David didn't answer right away. He crossed the room, took the shirt from her hands, and folded it perfectly before setting it down. Then he touched her cheek, just once, softly, like a question. She leaned into it. And that was the answer. The next morning, Emma stood outside. The same laundry shop where she'd nearly cried on her first day. Clara gave her a once-over and said, "You coming back just to quit?" Emma smiled. "I'm coming back to ask if you need someone full-time." Clara blinked. "Huh. I'm staying." "Well, you fold better than you talk. Get inside." Weeks passed. The rhythm of the house shifted from cautious to comfortable. Mia started calling Emma, Emmy. The couch became a bed some nights, a jungle gym others. Emma's duffel bag stayed in the closet unpacked, but never hidden. She didn't need to hide anymore, not from who she was, not from who she was becoming. One evening, after dinner, they sat on the porch as the sun dipped below the rooftops. Emma held her old necklace in her hand, the blue sapphire catching the fading light. "I was going to sell it," she said, "when things got bad. But then I realized it's not what's valuable." David glanced at her. "What is?" She looked at him. "This." Mia ran through the front yard chasing fireflies, her laughter echoing into the twilight. Emma leaned her head on David's shoulder. "I used to think love was a thing people gave in exchange for something else," she said. "And now? Now I know it's what stays when everything else leaves." He didn't say anything, just laced his fingers through hers and held on. The next morning, Emma sat on the edge of the couch, tying her hair back with shaky fingers. The hoodie David gave her still hung off her shoulders like a blanket she hadn't quite earned. She felt like a guest, a question mark in someone else's life. David walked in, brushing crumbs from his work shirt, and handed her a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" she asked. "Name and address of a laundry shop down the street. Friend of mine owns it. I told her you might stop by." Emma raised an eyebrow. "I never said I was staying." "You didn't have to," he said, pointing at the clean sneakers by the door. "But you're wearing those." She looked down. Her worn-out boots were gone, replaced by a pair of inexpensive but brand-new white sneakers. Inside one was a folded note tucked into the heel. "If you're walking away, at least don't walk in pain." Her chest tightened. "I didn't buy them." "To keep you here," David said softly. "I just thought your feet deserved better." By noon, Emma stood behind the counter of laundry and suds in an oversized apron, trying to figure out which button turned on the dryer. The owner, Clara, a tough woman with sharp eyes, barely looked at her. "Jack said you needed something temporary. Start by sorting whites. Don't shrink anything." The first hour was chaos. By the second, her arms ached, her hands were raw, and her shoulders burned. A customer accused her of losing a sock. Another glared when she mixed up 2 orders. One man dropped off 3 massive bags and muttered, "I expect this done by 5, before walking out. She didn't cry, but she wanted to. By 4 o'clock she was outside, leaning against the back wall of the shop, apron soaked, hair frizzy, face flushed. She slid down to the concrete, pulled off her shoes, and stared at the dumpster across from her. Is this my life now? No cameras, no glittering floors, just soap bubbles, aching arms, and sore feet. That evening she returned to David's apartment in silence. She dropped her bag, kicked off her sneakers, and sat slumped on the couch. David didn't ask. Instead, he brought her a bottle of juice and a foil-wrapped sandwich. "You didn't eat lunch," he said simply. She stared at it, then peeled back the foil and took a bite. It was just bread, tomato, and cheese, but it tasted like someone had thought about her. "Thank you," she whispered. The next day she returned to work, and the next. She made mistakes, got yelled at, but she learned folding towels like a pro, matching socks faster, stacking sheets with precision. And every evening, something small waited for her at home. A heating pad for her sore back, a jar of her favorite candy, something she'd once mentioned in passing to Mia. That Friday, Clara received a massive order, over 100 hotel sheets due by morning. Emma stayed late to help. By midnight, she and David were alone in the back room, folding in silence. Her arms were jelly, her legs ached, but she didn't want to leave. "You ever regret it?" she asked. "Regret what?" "Doing this. The endless grind. The paycheck that disappears before it arrives." David thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But then I remember what it buys me." She tilted her head. "What's that?" "Stability, dignity, the right to look my daughter in the eyes and tell her I earned every bit of this." At 2 a.m. they loaded the clean laundry into his old pickup truck. Emma slumped in the passenger seat, exhausted. "I can't feel my hands," she groaned. "You'll miss them when they're gone," he teased. They drove through quiet streets, windows fogging in the chill. Emma rested her forehead on the glass, watching the blur of streetlights. At one stop, David handed her a small laundry bag. House number 12. Porch lights still on. Emma stepped out, placed the bag on the doormat, and turned back. Suddenly the porch light clicked off. A growl followed. Then a dog barked, loud and furious. A huge black shepherd lunged from behind the gate. Emma stumbled, twisting her foot on the curb, hitting the ground hard, scraping her palm on the pavement. The truck door slammed. David was already running. He stepped between her and the dog, arms outstretched. "Back! Get back!" he shouted. The dog skidded to a halt, barking but retreating. Emma sat frozen on the sidewalk, breathing fast. David crouched beside her. "Are you okay?" I think so. Just my wrist." He helped her up gently and walked her back to the truck. Inside, he closed the door, leaning against it with tense shoulders. "I told you to wait in the truck," he said, voice low. "I thought I could handle it. I know you did. But you don't have to prove anything here." She looked at him and for the first time saw fear, not for himself. For her. Emma was behind the counter folding towels when it happened. She opened the industrial dryer, pulling out a pile of warm whites. Steam rose, soft and damp. She reached for a bath sheet, then froze. Lying among the linens was a necklace, a thin gold chain. One brilliant sapphire. Familiar. Too familiar. Her heart stopped. She snatched it before anyone else could see, turning it over in her trembling hands. The gem glinted in the fluorescent light, reflecting her wide, panicked eyes. She thought she had left it behind, hidden deep in her bag inside a rolled-up sock. Somehow it had slipped into the laundry. Somehow it had found its way out. When she looked up, it was too late. David was walking past with a stack of pillowcases. His eyes landed on the necklace. He slowed, then stopped. The air shifted. "That doesn't look like something a broke student carries around," he said quietly. Emma opened her mouth, but nothing came. She closed her fingers tight around the chain like it could erase the moment. "I forgot it was in there," she blurted, too quickly. David's gaze wasn't angry, but sharper, quieter. "Who are you?" She hesitated. "A no one. Just someone who needed help. That's not an answer." Her breath came short. Her fingers shook. "I walked away from a world where everything had a price except love. That's who I am." David didn't move, didn't speak. "You lied," he said at last. "I didn't lie. I just didn't say everything." He exhaled slowly. "That's the same thing." The machines hummed, soap churned. The world kept spinning, just not for them. Then the doorbell chimed. A man entered, leather jacket, baseball cap pulled low, phone in hand. "There she is," he said, raising the camera. "Gotcha." Emma's stomach dropped. "No, no, no." The man snapped a photo. "You've been missing 5 days. Your daddy's offering 6 figures to know where you are." David stepped between them, voice tight. "Put the camera down. Leave. Easy, man. I'm just doing my job." "She doesn't want to be found," the man smirked. "Doesn't matter. Harrington wants his daughter home." Emma ran. David caught her wrist gently, pulling her toward the back exit. "Let's go." They burst through the rear door into the alley. Her breath came in gasps, her heart thudding like a war drum. "Where's Mia?" she cried. "At school," David answered. "I'll get her. You're not going back alone." They reached the truck in record time. David didn't drive home, he drove to his neighbor's. Mrs. Ramirez opened the door. Before he could explain, one look was enough. "I'll keep her," she said. "Mia, sweetie," David knelt. "You're having a sleepover here, okay?" "Okay, Daddy." He kissed her cheek, turned to Emma. "Let's go." They drove past the school, past the corner store, headlights cutting through the dusk. Emma watched him under the glow of the dashboard, his hand steady on the wheel but his jaw clenched. "You're bleeding," she said, pointing to his arm. "Guy pushed me, just a scrape. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you're okay, and Mia's safe. That's what matters." She looked at him differently now, not as a stranger, not even just as a protector, but something more. Something permanent. By sunset, they returned, parking a block away. David scanned the street like a soldier before battle. Emma stepped out first. If someone's there, I need to face it. They rounded the corner. A sleek black car sat outside the apartment. Two suited men stood near the porch. The front door was open. David instinctively stepped in front of her. Then a third man walked out, silver hair, pressed suit, cold eyes. Emma stopped breathing. "Get in the car," the man sighed. David squared his shoulders. "You her father?" "I'm Winston Harrington, and you're the man who's been hiding her. I gave her a couch when she had nowhere else to go. This place is beneath her. You can't believe she belongs here. She chose it. She doesn't know what she's doing. She knows more than you think. I won't let you keep her. I'm not keeping her. But I'm not handing her over either." Emma stepped forward. "Dad, stop. You're coming home." "No," she whispered. "This is home." Winston's voice hardened. "You're making a mistake." David looked at her. "You don't have to go." Her eyes filled. "I think I do." She stepped back slowly, like it hurt. David didn't follow. At the car she paused. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He said nothing. The door closed behind her like the end of a chapter. David stood alone in the street. This time there was no rain. Only silence. The days after Emma left were quiet. Too quiet. David still woke before dawn, packed me his lunch, walked her to the bus stop, and worked his overnight shift sweeping sidewalks and parking lots across the city. But everything felt dull, like someone had turned the volume down on his life. The apartment felt emptier. The couch where she had slept stayed untouched, though he had fluffed the cushions more than once. He told Mia only that Miss Emma had to go help someone important, and Mia, perhaps sensing the ache in his voice, didn't ask many questions. But she stopped humming when she played with her blocks. She started sleeping with the lights on,